Merriam-Webster is the oldest dictionary publisher in America. It's keeping up with the times, too. The dictionary is making its voice heard online. Its web version receives about 100 million views each month, and the company is always trying to figure out what's trending. The dictionary's Twitter account has gained increasing attention for calling out the vocabulary of popular figures and public figures. Last week, it slammed United Airlines over its violent removal of a passenger by tweeting out the definition of volunteer. And that's just one example. Peter Sokolowski is the editor-at-large of Merriam-Webster, and he's here to explain what's behind the dictionary's increasing use of social media. Hey, thanks for joining us. So volunteer was really popular?
It was the word that spiked in our data. So the advantage of having a dictionary online is that we now can see what people are looking up in real time.
But people know what volunteer means.
Well, you'd think so, but there are words that are like volunteer, but words that are common words like science, or the word princess after Princess Diana died, for example, that seem to be common, but in one story are used in a specific way, and or, in this case, had some kind of cognitive dissonance, because the United Airlines statement used the word volunteer. Everyone saw that video, and the man was manifestly not volunteering.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about the dictionary and when I was a kid and why I used the dictionary, and usually it was to double-check spelling. We don't need that anymore because we have spell check, but clearly the dictionary is just as important as ever.
Yeah, well, the fact is the written word is more important than ever because we communicate so much via texting and writing and email. So the fact is the language is alive and well, and people need that reference online, on your app, you know, as a book as well. And the importance of spelling, for example, is underscored all the time when people make fun of public figures who misspell on Twitter, for example. And Twitter shows this sort of concentrated language, which means it's exaggerated language, which means if you misspell something on Twitter and you're a public figure, people will notice.
Yeah. You know, the other thing I was thinking about when it came to the dictionary is, you know, we're sort of living in a time of perhaps alternative facts, or and certainly in a time where you can find information to back up whatever your point of view is, and finding a true fact may actually be challenging, except in the dictionary. It's the one place you can go to where a clear definition of a word and how to pronounce it is right there, and there's no wiggle room.
I think you've hit on what's going on right now. Since when does copying and pasting the definition of a word like fact, or a word like complicit, or feminism, or volunteer, since when is that a subversive act? You know, since when is that something that's remarkable and newsworthy? Well, I think we've come to a moment of alternative facts and false news or fake news, where the smallest constituent part of any story is the word, right? And when we see the data spike for a word like feminism, or fact, or complicit, or volunteer, then we know what people are thinking about, and we can report on that, and that becomes, you know, we have an unusual authority on the meanings and spellings of words, and it's great and gratifying for me as a dictionary maker to see people turning to the dictionary for what we've always been, which is to say that ultimate reference or resource.
Right, the buck stops there.
Sure, I mean, we've been calling balls and strikes on spelling and meanings for 170 years.
Right. Your Twitter account has been called one of the sassiest Twitter accounts of the Trump era, sassiest. How do you choose what words you put out there, the definitions of what words?
Sure. Well, in fact, the public tells us. We're reporting the data, so we try to tell the truth about words. And originally that meant do good research for the definitions, tell the truth about the word's meaning. But now it's come full circle. We can report on which words the public is interested in and tell the truth about language in that way. Now, I'm not going to deny there's some wonderful sass. Our social media manager, Laura Natural, who has just the wit and the wisdom to project and amplify what's inside the dictionary to a lot of people. But it also has to be said that she's told me some of the most successful tweets were simply the definitions.
Really?
Yeah, so that sass has to come with substance. In other words, the meaning that people are looking for, we know that they're asking a question, and we hope we have the answer.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of your successful retweets, 80,000 simply for the word fact, right? And we talked about volunteer, 50,000 times retweeted. The other thing that people love is when you guys come out with new words every year. I bet you that's heavily debated, whether the words you're coming out with are words at all. I know binge watch, this year. Susian?
Susian is great.
Are people really using that word?
Well, here it is. They are.
Okay.
And that's a particular favorite of mine because Dr. Seuss's hometown is Springfield, Massachusetts, where we have been located since 1831.
Okay.
And in fact, Mayberry Street is right around the corner from our office. So so we know sort of, you know, that we have a connection to Dr. Seuss. But yeah, people use that word Susian in a generic way to mean something that's fanciful or artsy in the way that his drawings were.
Oh, you know I'm working it into a casual conversation today.
Yeah, Susian.
I'll figure out a way to do it.
It's a great word.
How do you pick the words, the new words?
Yeah, you know, it's not a debate. You know, it's kind of a mechanical process. We look for 3 criteria: widespread use, used by many writers in many places; sustained use, used over a number of years, usually with increasing usage; and finally, meaningful use. That is to say that all of those writers essentially mean the same thing when they're using it. We need lots of evidence. So it's important to remember that we're not inventing the words. We're kind of looking in the rearview mirror and seeing what the language is doing and reporting on that. So, you know, we don't try to be avant-garde. We're trying to catch up.
You know, I remember learning when I was in school that English is a living language and it's sort of constantly evolving, but people get very passionate about this sort of thing. I'm sure when you redefine a word like, say, marriage, I know you got some pushback when you sort of redefine marriage, you must hear from people who are upset.
Sure, but we're basing those definitions on the way the word is used. We're not basing it on any kind of legal decisions or anything. We're just basing it on the way that many people in many places use the word. So, you know, we're ready to defend that process. It's a very descriptive process, and it's a very slow process, and it's very, you know, consistent. We just do it all day, every day.
All right. Well, Peter Sokolowski, I expect 170 plus more years. Keep being sassy on Twitter because we love it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.